Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier, and thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I hope the weekend was good. I'm back to reading Thomas Pynchon, this enormous book called Against the Day, and I'm at about page 100. And I'll give you some quotes. "A weapon based on time," mused Victor Mulchiba. Well, why not? The one force no one knows how to defeat, resist or reverse. It kills all forms of life sooner or later. With a time weapon, you could become the most feared person in history. "I'd rather be loved," said Root. A Mulchiba shrugged. "You're young." Then another one. "Explosion without an objective is politics in its purest form." Remember, God didn't say, "I'm going to make light now." He said, "Let there be light." His first act was to allow light in to what had been nothing. Like God, you also have to always work with the light. Make it do only what you want it to do. He is a tremendous writer, very complex and dense, but fascinating. And then I liked the photographs I took of the snow peaks of Kilimanjaro 36 days ago when I was on my way to Maputo. I'll put up two of them. The one is actually the negative, but you can see the sort of snow formation on the mountain. Political reflections. Egypt's president has acknowledged for the first time that heavy sentences handed down to 3 Al Jazeera journalists had a very negative impact on his country's reputation, saying he wished they had never been put on trial. And clearly now we've had more, who's probably guiding the judiciary here, and I think rightly so. Then jumping to the news out of Mosul, in the recording, a bearded man in black robes and a turban climbs a set of stairs to a mosque pulpit before speaking, declaring himself Caliph Ibrahim. I'll put up an image made from video purporting to show the leader of the Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And it is, of course, his first appearance, and I found a YouTube link with English subtitles if you want to have a look at what he said. Just click on that link. It's under Rich Wrap-Ups. Subsequent, so I'm still watching that closely. I think there are multiple redirection risks. I think the Saudi Arabians are quite sensible to sort of put resource on that border, and I think al-Baghdadi clearly is fairly confident given the fact that he goes and makes that speech, and clearly well heeled because there was a lot of money in the bank accounts in Mosul when they took it. 2 militants blew themselves up in southern Saudi Arabia. 2 suspected al-Qaeda militants blew themselves up on Saturday after being trapped inside a government building in southern Saudi Arabia, the Interior Ministry said, following an attack on a border post with Yemen that also killed 4 security men. An Interior Ministry spokesman said the 2 were part of a group of 6 al-Qaeda militants who attacked the Wadiya border post on Friday from Yemen. 3 of them were killed on Friday and a 4th was captured after being injured. Mansur al-Turki said security forces surrounded the 2 men on the 2nd floor of the local intelligence service building in Al-Sharura area after they'd forced their way into the building on Friday. The militants, who Turkey said had been identified as people wanted by the authorities, declined a chance to surrender. At an early hour this morning, the 2 attackers resorted to blowing themselves up, Turkey said. Attackers made no demands nor heeded appeals by security men to surrender, he told a news conference later in the day. The kingdom as a whole is targeted, not only the crossing points, Turkey told journalists. The is and represents a clear and present danger to the kingdom, in my opinion. Ahmed Jelebi, who's never down, never out, is back again, and he's described in this article in the Guardian as a consummate puppet master. "I saw the Prime Minister yesterday and the subject of Chalabi came up," said one senior MP. Maliki responded, "Don't talk to me about the guy in the red underpants." Chalabi swims most days in red swimming trunks, and I noticed even Paul Wolfowitz has come out in support of him. And then there's someone saying, for him, chaos isn't a pit, but a ladder. His lesson is that you are never finished here. If you know how to maneuver, he can't be written off. Then I jumped to an article I read in the New Yorker where this sentence caught my attention. To kill the big rats, you have to kill the little rats. Children are not just getting caught in the crossfire, they're also likely to be specific targets. Graka Mashal. Children in war. When ethnic loyalties prevail, a perilous logic clicks in. The escalation from ethnic superiority to ethnic cleansing to genocide, as we have seen, can become an irresistible process. Killing adults is then not enough. Future generations of the enemy, their children, must also be eliminated. Today's wars are increasingly within countries rather than between them, which is a good point. The fighting has moved to city streets, invading the playrooms of homes and kindergartens. It really is terrible. International markets, Christine Lagarde says the global economy is gathering speed, though the pace may be a bit less than we previously predicted because the growth potential is lower and investment spending remains lackluster. The IMF is preparing to update its economic forecast this month after predicting on April the 8th that the global economy would expand 3.6% this year and 3.9% in 2015. In the US, we expect a significant rebound, Lagarde said, adding that risks to US growth include the ability of the Fed to taper in an orderly manner and that of the Treasury to put in place a medium-term budget framework. We see an investment deficit everywhere, Lagarde said. If you're not in a medium-term situation that assures sustainability, you can't undertake major infrastructure investments, which I think is a valid point as well. Currency markets, Euro 135.85, the dollar's at a one-week high versus the euro. Goldman Sachs brought forward its forecast for higher US interest rates. Dollar index moving towards the top of the range, which is at around 81, 80.33 last. Japanese yen 102.14, Swiss franc 0.8955. The pound 171.42 and not far off a 6-year high of 171.80. Aussie 0.9355 retreated 0.7% last week, and remember, topped 94. Actually, I think it topped 95. India rupee 59.789, South Korean won 10.1020, the Rial 221.28, Egyptian pound 7.1555, and the rand is soft at 10.7631. The dollar has appreciated 0.7% last week. Euro was 0.2% softer and the yen 0.1%. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. I think it heads towards the top of the range, which is around 81. US policy makers will boost their benchmark in the third quarter of 2015 rather than the first quarter of 2016. That's Goldman Sachs. Fed will release the minutes of its June 17, June 18 meeting on July 9. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 3-month chart of that. We've come back a little bit, 135.85 last. And then an interesting article in Bloomberg about failures to deliver in the US Treasury market. Failures to deliver have averaged $65.6 billion a week this year, reaching as much as $197.6 billion in the week ended June 18, which is an interesting little bit of detail. When you fail to deliver, you pay a 3% penalty at the moment, and apparently there are a bunch of bonds which are trading at -3, but you can't get them. Gold 13.1669 eased off a little bit. You will recall it touched 13.32.33 on July 1st, which was the highest since March 24, but I think it was very rich, but it's completed a 5th week of gains as of last week. Crude oil 103.99, I think it's a trading buy. Of course, the crude oil markets were closed for July 4. There was no floor trading, and those transactions will be booked today for settlement purposes. But I think, we got a little bit overexcited about Iraq, came back a little bit, but I think now again we're priced where people are not expecting any more serious developments, and I think you could get them quite easily. Harun Mutasa tweeted a photograph of President Peter Mutharika of Malawi at Independence Day celebrations in Lilongwe. I'll put that up. The South African All-Share up 12.547% in 2014 and at record highs. Dollar versus Rand, I'll put up a 6-month chart, 1076.31 last. And this is at the softer end of its recent trading range. Egyptian pound 715.55. We've been here quite a while, though, although there was a lot that happened in Egypt. Egyptian taxi drivers went on strike, protesting an increase in some fuel prices of up to 78%. The Egyptian president defended his decision to raise energy prices, saying this was the only way to save the nation from drowning in debt. Saying it was an important step that has been delayed for 50 years. This follows an increase in electricity prices, all set to trigger secondary rises in other goods. The Egyptian stock market is up 22.692% this year. The Nigerian All-Share is up 4.1181% and at more than 5-year highs. Over the past year, the number of terrorist attacks in Nigeria has almost doubled, killing close to 3,500 people, according to the risk analysis group Maplecroft. There is every chance that Boko Haram will eventually attack Lagos, says Ben Payton, Maplecroft's senior Africa analyst. Mass casualty attacks in Lagos would shatter the perception that the Boko Haram insurgency is confined to a remote corner of the country. Chris Gilmore, in another article on Bloomberg, said retail security across Africa has often been relatively lax, and you will probably see that being beefed up. He was referring to Nigeria. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 11.608% this year, but of course remember that the currency has been extremely weak and down about 27%. UNCTAD UNCTAD put out a very interesting report about economic development in Africa, catalyzing investment for transformative growth in Africa. Very interesting. It's on Rich Wrap-Ups if you care to have a look, saying that the continent has experienced deindustrialization in the past 2 decades, as evidenced by the fact that the share of manufacturing in total value added fell from 13% in 1990 to 12% in 2000 and 10% in 2011. The service sector is increasingly playing a key role in the growth process in Africa. Talking about how we've got to absorb 15 million youths who enter the labour market each year. Household consumption is the dominant component of demand in Africa, with an average growth rate of 5%, and the 62% share of GDP made the largest contribution to output growth in the period 2000 to 2011. Service sector is now the most dominant sector of African economies. Total value added in the period was about 47%. Talking about public investment efficiency being low in sub-Saharan Africa, the degree of financial intermediation in an economy can also affect investment. Interesting point that they're making there. In 2012, Africa received $50 billion in FDI inflows, representing about 3.7% of global inflows. The amount of inflows received by the continent in 2012 represents an increase relative to the $44 billion received in 2010. Capital flight from Africa in terms of unrecorded outflows of private capital stood at $50 billion a year. Interesting report. Do have a look if you've got time. The price of ivory in China has tripled to $2,100 per kilogram over the past 4 years. And it's really a great shame. I'll put up a photograph of those elephants crossing the Owasso-Nyiro River in Samburu. Tanzania is the top destination for FDI in the East African region. Recent data produced by UNCTAD reveal that in 2013, Tanzania had received $12.7 billion in FDI stock, eclipsing both Kenya and Uganda, which stood at $3.4 billion and $8.8 billion respectively. A spokesman for US Africa Command told the Voice of America Africa a limited number of trainers and advisors and a small military coordination cell are in Somalia to support African Union peacekeepers and Somali security forces. Coming to Kenya, on March 19, Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga posted two unusual statements on his Facebook page. A storm is coming, and then, a little while later, I will give you more details very soon. The page has not been updated since. On May 31st, Odinga flew back to Kenya from a sabbatical in Boston and was greeted by a big welcome home rally, accompanied by a message that went under the hashtag Baba while you were away. He pegged a demand to a 60-day deadline that would expire today, Saba Saba days, hence 7/7. The deadline created a sense of some unclear event that would follow if the opposition's demands were not met. Odinga even went on to declare Saba Saba a public holiday 2 weeks after the rally, saying that the day would mark a big change for the country. That day is upon us today. Saba Saba is a day of historical significance in Kenya's politics. In 1990, it was the time of pro-democracy protests against the authoritarian government of Daniel Arap Moi, which had cracked down on freedoms, including the right of assembly. It is particularly interesting to note that the two posts on an incoming storm and promise of more details were not posted on his other active social media channel, Twitter, nor has he explained them in the mainstream media or elsewhere. I conclude by saying, is this Saba Saba rally in fact an anti-war rally, given Mr. Odinga has called for the withdrawal of the KDF from Somalia? I was just trying to work out what one characterises it, because it's been very fluid. So today, the main opposition party CORD are holding a rally in Nairobi in memory of Saba Saba Day on July 7th, 1990. The roads are extremely quiet, as they were this morning. I'll put up a photograph I took of the Prime Minister's hat, the then Prime Minister's hat, at Nyayo's National Stadium 973 days ago. I'll put up a photograph of him, and then a photograph of Kenneth Matiba and Charles Rubia, who were arrested on July 4th, 1990, and another photograph of a Saba Saba demonstration, July 7th, 1990, from left Gitobu Imanyara, James Orengo, Raila Odinga, and Charles Rubia. So clearly we are now in a very fluid situation today. As long as it doesn't spill onto the streets, I think we're okay. We'll have to keep an eye on how it pans out. You know, I thought the real issue here is probably cost of living. I'm surprised it has not been characterized as such, because I think that would resonate with a lot of people. BBC's Dennis Okari in Nairobi says houses were set alight in Hindi near Pekatoni, and a police station had been attacked at Gamba. Al-Shabaab radio claimed they attacked Hindi and 3 nearby villages, killing more than 20 enemies, destroying enemy property. Al-Shabaab claimed to have killed more than 10 enemies, took control of the prison and freed Muslim inmates after little resistance from Mogadishu. Attacked 2 areas in Kenya last night, Hindi near Lamu and Gamba in the Tana River, inflicting heavy casualties. Subsequent to that, and I'm not going to put up the image because someone actually posted this image of a Russian tourist shot dead around Fort Jesus. Really very, very sad. Stefan Smith, who's with Agence France Presse, then tweeted, Kenya police say murder of Russian tourist in Mombasa was just normal thuggery. And he says, reassuring. Hardly. I'll put up a photograph of Fort Jesus as you look through out to sea. A chalkboard found near Hindi, which appeared to be left by an unidentified attackers, carried the words, kick Christians out of the coast. And then somebody else saying the government is waiting for Odinga to make a misstep. Today, Jeffrey Gettleman's written an interesting article in the New York Times that's on rich wrap-ups, gruesome attacks in Kenyan villages, heightened fears of a nation on edge. He's certainly not wrong. And then from Bloomberg, if there are clashes at the Saba Saba rally and many people die, it will be a negative for Kenya. If there is a heavy government crackdown, it will be bad for Kenya too. I think that's the point. Cement consumption, I learned, has gone up by 25% in the first 5 months of the year, driven by increased demand from urban commercial construction. That's a very big number. Bob Collymore spoke to the Reuters chat room, and Suresh Ashbury has put up the verbatim transcript, and it's very interesting if you care to go and have a look. Bob says, we have 7 strategic pillars: build and maintain the best network in Kenya, retention of high-value customers, broaden, deepen financial inclusion through M-Pesa, driving data usage, continue to drive innovation, business partner of choice, driving the youth market and staying ahead of the innovation curve. Our concern about the Slim SIM is its potential to compromise the M-Pesa customer security. It's untested in markets where mobile money is widely used. Then talking about the CCTV deal, there is some valid concern about the CCTV deal, and that's to do with transparency around the award of the tender. Parliamentarians are scrutinising whether proper processes were followed, which we believe they were. Safaricom is up 18.139% this year, and I think it's headed higher. Kenya shilling was just below 88 at 87.91. Nairobi all shares up 11.298% this year, just below a record high set on the 2nd of July. NSE 20 is back to negative 0.8323%, rose marginally yesterday. There's a link that you can check any and every single listed share. And then finally, John Githanga has given a very interesting interview to The Guardian. It's a video interview. Do have a look at it, that link, if you scroll down, which wrap-up's near the bottom. And then I put up a photograph from the Star saying security tied to Uhuru Park ahead of the called Sabha rally. So really it's quite fluid, but we're hoping that things go off without too much fuss. Once again, thank you.